The brain is not supposed to be quiet. Most people don't realize this. They assume a busy mind is a broken one, that the goal is silence. It isn't. The goal is direction. The problem with overthinkers, specifically the smart ones, is not that their brain won't stop. It's that their brain won't stop on the right things. I know this because I live on a mountain. It is very quiet out here. My brain, however, has opinions about everything.
What overthinking actually is? Most people confuse overthinking with anxiety. They are related, but not the same. Anxiety is the emotion. Overthinking is the behavior. It is repetitive, involuntary mental activity that cannot locate an exit. Psychologists call this rumination. The word comes from the Latin for to chew the cud, which is what cows do. They chew the same food multiple times. I find cows philosophically interesting for this reason. They arrived at this solution long before modern psychology named it, although I suspect they are not choosing it freely. The distinction matters because most advice for overthinking treats it as an emotional problem. It isn't. It's a cognitive one. You cannot feel your way out of overthinking. You have to understand the mechanism first. So here is the mechanism.
Why smart people are more vulnerable. There is a psychological concept called metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking. Highly intelligent people have very well-developed metacognition. This is usually an advantage. It is why they catch errors others miss. It is why they ask better questions. It is why they notice the flaw in the plan before the plan was executed. It is also why they cannot stop thinking about whether the email they sent at 3:47 p.m. came across as passive-aggressive. Here is what happens inside the loop. A thought arrives. The brain evaluates it. The brain evaluates the evaluation. Then it evaluates the evaluation of the evaluation. The smarter the brain, the more levels it can run simultaneously. And the more levels it runs, the harder it is to find the ground floor. You may have heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect. The short version: people with limited knowledge tend to overestimate their competence. People with high knowledge tend to underestimate it. This is metacognition at work. The intelligent person is always aware of what they don't yet know, which means the calculation never quite finishes. I think about this when I watch the mountain in winter. The snowpack is constantly shifting, settling, reassessing. It does not stop until spring. Even then, it is just waiting.
When you are not actively focused on a task, your brain does not rest. It switches on what neuroscientists call the default mode network, the brain's background process, the hum that runs when no other application has focus. For most people, this is where daydreaming happens, a gentle wander through loosely connected thoughts. For overthinkers, particularly intelligent ones, the default mode network is not a gentle wander. It is a deposition. Your brain calls up the memory, cross-examines it, checks it against your values and your predictions and your assessment of other people's perceptions, finds a discrepancy, files it under unresolved, and schedules a follow-up review for 2 a.m. Studies on default mode network activity have found that people who score higher on measures of creativity and intelligence show more elaborate and interconnected patterns of thought in this resting state. The brain doesn't just idle, it works. This is both why smart people tend to be more creative and why they tend to lie awake reconstructing conversations that ended months ago. The mountain does not have a default mode network. This is one of its finest qualities. I have asked it directly.
Not all repetitive thinking is the same. This distinction is important. Reflection is thinking about an experience in order to learn from it. It has a direction. It moves forward. You enter it with a question and eventually arrive somewhere new. Rumination is thinking about an experience in order to feel something about it. It does not have a direction. It circles. You enter it, and it exits you somewhere worse than where you started. Psychologists have found that people who score higher on cognitive complexity, a measure of how many variables your brain can hold simultaneously, tend toward rumination when stressed, not reflection. The brain is capable of enormous depth. Under pressure, it applies that depth to the wrong problems. Here is the test. Ask yourself, is this thought changing? Is it producing new information, new angles, new exits? Or is it producing the same conclusion, rephrased? Reflection changes shape. Rumination repeats. I once thought about a single decision for 11 days straight. On day 12, I realized the thinking had not changed since day 2. Days 3 through 11 were rumination dressed as reflection. I had simply been very thorough about being stuck. What to actually do, and what not to do. There is a great deal of bad advice about overthinking. Most of it involves stopping. You cannot stop a brain that is built to run. You can, however, redirect it. Psychologists working in cognitive behavioral frameworks recommend a technique called scheduled worry time. You assign a specific window, 15 or 20 minutes, where you are explicitly permitted to think about the thing. Outside that window, when the thought arrives, you note it and defer it. Not now. Tuesday, 3 o'clock. We'll deal with this then. This sounds absurd. It also works. The brain responds to structure. It does not respond well to suppression. The second intervention is specificity. Rumination is vague. It asks, what if this goes wrong? Reflection is specific. It asks, what specifically might go wrong? And what would I do about it? Vague questions loop. Specific questions land. I have noticed this about the mountain. The storms that seem most threatening are the ones you cannot see the shape of. Once you can measure the wind, once you can read the pressure, the fear becomes information, and information can be used. This does not make the storm stop, but it makes it smaller.
Overthinking is not a character flaw. It is a high-performance brain without sufficient direction. The same mechanism that catches what others miss also catches things that didn't need catching. The goal is not silence. The goal is better questions. If you recognized yourself in any of this and felt that complicated mixture of relief and mild irritation, that is the correct response. Subscribe or don't, but you probably already know which one you'll choose.